Good evening and welcome to a bite-sized guitar lesson from me, Adrian Kern. I'm a guitar tutor based in Wormpoint in County Down. Now, the subject of our bite-sized lesson, I've called it open chords versus bar chords. And this bite-sized lesson has been inspired by a guitar student today who asked a great question. We're learning bar chords. He's went through the process of learning his E string, learning the bar chord shape, and learning how to play basically all of the major chords that exist with the bar chords. And I asked the question, why would I choose to play a G major open chord versus a bar chord? And I thought that was a great question, and that is the topic that I'm going to cover this evening. Now, if I play a G major open chord and I play a G major bar chord, and one of the first differences really, or things to consider, is the tonal quality between the bar chord and the open chord. Open chords generally have a brighter, more resonant sound due to the open strings vibrating freely. See, when I play the G chord, there is 3 of my notes in that chord are open strings. So it's more vibrant, it's brighter, there's more resonance in the sound. Whereas a bar chord on the other hand, is because I am fretting all of the notes of the bar chord, it can sound much more fuller. It's more consistent in the tone because all of the notes are being fretted. So that can have its advantages depending on the style of music that we are playing. The next thing to consider is the ease of transition. A lot of what we play on guitar, I call it guitar by shapes. So we have to train our fingers to get into certain positions to be able to play certain bar or certain chords. With the bar chord, once you learn the position and you then know the notes of your E string, it's a case just of shifting that shape. So that makes chord progressions, the movement between chords, much smoother and much faster. So if I'm playing, for example, an open chord from a G to an A major, if I play it in bar chords, I'm simply shifting that shape up 2 frets. So in this instance, it's a bit easier to play your G major bar chord to your A major bar chord as opposed to your G major open chord to your A major open chord. So the transition from the chords, the movement of the chords, because a bar chord is really a shiftable or movable shape, makes that easier to play in certain instances. The musical context, I think, is important when we're choosing whether to play an open chord or whether to play a bar chord. So as we've talked earlier, when I play a G major chord, because I'm using the open chords, it rings out, it's brighter. If I play a bar chord, it's tighter, it's much more focused, there's a punchier type of sound. So the type of music that I'm playing, so say I'm playing a more aggressive style of music like rock, I might choose to play the bar chord because I'm getting a much more focused, punchier, tighter sound than a open chord. So you can see you can hear when I play the G major bar chord. So if I'm playing 4 beats in the bar, say for example. Getting a much tighter sound than if I play that as a G major open chord. That leads on to the dynamic control. Now, dynamics in guitar playing is important, and the dynamics are the shades, the musical color shades that we introduce into our playing, whether we play something hard, soft, at higher volume, at lower volume. If we mute the strings, that's what's called dynamics. And if you think of the word dynamic and its meaning, it means to bring variation, to bring change. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to introduce change and variation into the sounds that we're creating on our guitar. And that's important because as a listener of music, we need to hear variations in the sounds to keep us interested. It's what's called a pattern interrupt. And that pattern interrupt is how our brains work. We constantly need that change, those dynamics in life in general, but specifically when it comes to music, to focus our attention, to help us concentrate, to help us hone in on something that we find enjoyable. So that dynamic control, the bar chord creates or gives us much greater control over dynamics because all of the strings are fretted at the same time. So it's easier to apply techniques like muting or even to pick out individual notes. Personally, I find if I wanted to mute each of the notes of a chord, I find it easier to do it when I'm fretting and playing a bar chord than I do an open chord. I think that's down just to the position that my fingers are in. It's where I'm placing my fingers on the fretboard. When I'm in that bar chord position, I feel as if I've got a tighter control over what it is that I'm playing, that leads me to make that musical choice or that guitar choice to play that particular technique. The next thing we'll take a look at is the, I suppose, comfort of playing a bar chord because it's a shifting shape. So I can do a chord progression. Let's say my chord progression, I'm going from a A major to a G major to an F major. Well, if I'm playing that chord progression, it's much easier for me to shift down through those chords. Because I've learned my bar chord, because I've learned the position that my fingers need to be in to successfully play that bar chord, it means that I can easily shift and move, maintaining that form. And that's an important thing to try and do if you're learning bar chords. Try and not lift your hands off the fretboard and then try and reform the shape. Try and move and maintain that shape. Now that brings along its own challenge because particularly if you're playing electric guitar or an acoustic guitar that's amplified, whenever we move, that brings in noise. So what we have to try and do is learn how to control so that we're not getting too much of that scraping, scratching sound when we move the shapes. So sometimes what I'm doing is that when I move, I'm actually lifting my fingers off the fretboard slightly to reduce the noise that I might make if I simply shifted my fingers down like that. Now, my guitar volume's not very loud here, so you mightn't be able to hear that. But if I was playing through a loud amp, and particularly if I've got any overdrive or distortion on it, that sound might start to cause a problem. So what I'm doing here is I'm just lifting my fingers off slightly as I shift. But that playing control has got a flip side, because the bar chords, because you're trying to fret all of, in the instance of a major chord played from the E string, the large E string, you're playing all of the strings of the guitar, the 6 strings. You're using all of your fingers 1, 2, 3, and 4 to bar the chord. So it does put pressure on your hands. And let's say that you have to play that through a whole song that lasts 3 or 4 minutes or longer. That can start to put pressure on your hands. And particularly if you are not used to playing bar chords, and you're not used to playing bar chords throughout the entirety of a song or a number of songs, that can put pressure on your hands. That's why a lot of guitar players will use capos to avoid having to play bar chords. It just makes it easier for them to shift the capo to allow them to play guitar chords in different keys using the standard open chord shapes. So that's something to think about, and certainly any guitar player will have had that experience where you have had a song that has perhaps maybe all bar chords, that you do find that tough on your hands. So if you're experiencing that, that's something that I think all guitar players will experience from time to time. So don't get worried about that. It's not that your hand is weak, that you your guitar playing is inadequate in any way. It just is a fact of life that if our hands are in that position, we're having to exert that much pressure on our fingers, and we're trying to maintain that precise shape, that does cause some discomfort, and it can be problematic. So it's important where you have got a song that has got bar chords the whole way through, that you practice playing it the whole way through to see how you fare, and to see whether through that practice you're managing to be able to strengthen up your fingers and your hands and gain that stamina to be able to continue that technique the whole way through. I suppose to conclude our bite-sized lesson on bar chords versus open chords, the overarching principle really is that it's a musical choice. So if you're composing your own music, you might have a choice to make about what sound vibe you're going for. It may be that you're going for a very fresh, vibrant sound, so the open chords might be the best choice. If you're going for a much edgier, compact, tighter sound, the bar chord might be the best choice. If you're trying to learn somebody else's song and you know the chord progression, you know that it is in, say for example, a G to A, and you're playing along with the song, and you know that you've got the right chords, but there's something just not right with the sound. It doesn't match perfectly. It's good to know how to play your bar chords, and it's good to know that you can shift into that technique, shift into that chord shape, and see whether that matches. Because while we're playing the same notes in a guitar chord, whether we're playing a G major open chord or a G major bar chord, the tonal quality that we talked about earlier, due to the position that you're playing on the neck of the guitar, will change. So what I call the vibe, the feel of the guitar chord will change even though you're still playing in the same pitch. And that's important when it comes to music. Remember dynamics. Dynamics are important because dynamics introduce those slightly different nuances into our guitar playing that can make the difference as far as the listener's concerned about whether we're capturing their attention and continuing to hold their attention. So, hope you enjoyed that. That was my bite-sized guitar lesson on bar chords, but specifically the difference between. And as I said, inspired by a guitar student who I had in my Worm Point guitar studio today who asked that question, and I thought it was a brilliant question. Okay, why would I choose an open G major chord over a G bar chord? So hopefully that has helped. If you would like to start guitar lessons with me, send me a private message and I'll send you all of the information that you need so that we can get started and you can begin on your guitar playing journey. Thanks for listening. I'll chat to you soon.